The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Probably the most positively reviewed game ever made. Countless journalists, critics, and websites have given it the title of the greatest game of all time. Not just one of the greatest, but the greatest. The consensus of Ocarina of Time is like the consensus of George Washington, or like breathing air, especially when it first came out. Speaking of that, when it did come out, it was massively impressive and groundbreaking, from the graphics, to the huge open world, to the engaging story full of plot twists, to the lifelike characters, and just that immersive feel that draws you in completely. While I hold Ocarina of Time in very high regard like most, I wouldn't say it's my favorite game, or even my favorite Zelda, that going to Majora's Mask. However, I can't deny that it's a fantastic title, one that, while not as impressive in 2024, is still a fun experience. I knew about it for quite a while, ever since I played Super Smash Bros. 64 when I was 10, and I really wanted to play it, but I was never able to find a copy at any retro game store, and there are tons of other games that interested 10-year-old me more, like Mario Party 9. Yeah, 10-year-old me was kinda stupid, if you can't tell. Anyway, it wasn't until I got a 3DS in 2016 at age 13 that I finally got a chance to play it. I even remember the story of how I got it. I was going through a very fervently religious phase around that time, and I sold my Kindle Fire to my older sister because I didn't want the temptation of all the internet. And do you want to know how much I sold it to her for? $30, yeah, $30, which was just enough to buy Nintendo Select's discounted copy of Ocarina of Time 3D from Walmart, some lamination sheets for some weird comics I made at the time, and a few Powerades. I don't know why I felt the need to tell you all that, but just setting the stage, I guess. While it didn't quite hit the same way it would have if I was 9, I still had an awesome time playing Ocarina of Time, and looking back, the summer of 2016 was probably the peak of my life, as it was for a lot of other people apparently. Yet this is all getting very off topic, and I'm trying to keep my videos to being 30 minutes max, or at least an hour max from now on, so let's cut to the chase and look at Ocarina of Time 26 years later to see if it's as good as everyone remembers. Starting off, I'm playing the 3DS version. I know everyone has nostalgia of the N64 version, it's just the video output of the N64 is just bad. Plus, the 3DS version has some improvements. Anyway, the story begins in a land of Hyrule, in a forest inhabited by the Kokiri, childlike beings who never age, each with their own fairy partner, except for one boy, Link, who has no fairy of his own. One night he has a dream. An ominous one. I cannot say that word, and I do not know why I feel the need to put words I can't pronounce in my scripts, but anyway, what appears to be a girl fleeing, and a scary looking guy. The guardian of the forest, the great Deku Tree, can sense the ever-growing power of this dark force, Ganondorf. He sends a fairy, Navi, to become Link's partner, and to bring him over. Link awakens from his slumber and the adventure begins. Most of the Kokiri are kind of forgettable, just serving as tutorial signs basically, except for two, Mido, who is a total jerk to Link, and practically everyone else, and Saria. Saria is Link's closest friend, and despite still being childlike and immortal and all that, is like a mother figure to him, or at the very least, a big sister. Anyway, Mido doesn't let Link pass through without a sword or shield, so you have to go find both. The sword can be found in a secret grotto, and a shield can be bought from the shop, after farming some rubies. With those in hand, it's time to see the Great Tree. He tells Link of Ganondorf's quest for power, and asking Link to break the curse he's given the Great Tree. You then have to go inside of him, yeah, get used to that, and cure him. This serves as the first dungeon of the game, and has to be one of the best opening dungeons I've seen in a Zelda. It's not too difficult, yet doesn't hold your hand either. Sure, if you need to, Navi can explain how gameplay elements work, but you're given independence fairly quickly. I kind of miss it when games had opening hours and it got to the point really fast, instead of wasting time on explanations and tutorials and all that. In the center of the dungeon is the cause of the Great Deku Tree's pain, a boss, Queen Goma. Logically, one of the easiest in the game, although I still died somehow. Yeah, I'm ashamed of myself too. Unfortunately, taking care of it doesn't save the Great Deku Tree, as he still dies. He takes his last moments to tell Link what he must do to save Hyrule from this great evil. Ganondorf seeks something known as a Triforce. It's a powerful relic, created by the goddesses who created Hyrule. If he gets his hands on it, Ganondorf and his underlings will be unstoppable. To prevent this dark future, Link must meet with Princess Zelda at Hyrule Castle, and lastly, gives him a special stone to help him on his quest. As Link leaves the forest, he sees his friend Saria one last time. She wishes him well on his journey outside the forest, although bittersweet. She gives him a gift to help on his journey, an ocarina, but man, Link is kind of a dick with how he abruptly leaves without even saying a word to her. Beyond the boundaries of Kokiri Forest is Hyrule Field. While not all that impressive by today's standards, oh boy was it a big deal for 98. There's so much here, and all the entrances to other lands are contained within it. Many secrets can be found too, most leading to things like heart pieces. I'd rank it as one of my favorite overworlds in gaming. It's just big enough to feel huge, but not actually gargantuan enough for the player to become lost. Just be sure to move quickly, because when night comes, the drawbridge to Castletown goes up, and stall children roam the earth. After a slightly annoying stealth section to get past the castle guards, Link meets with Zelda. We now finally get to see this Ganondorf guy, pledging allegiance to the King of Hyrule, while having ulterior motives. Zelda tells Link of a plan to stop him, which involves collecting free sacred stones to unlock the entrance to the Triforce's resting place, the Sacred Realm. If Link can beat him to it, he can unlock the realm's power first, and stop Ganondorf for good. That stone the Great Deku Tree gave Link earlier is one of the free, so Link only has 2 more to collect from here. On the way out, Zelda's attendant Impa teaches Link a song, Zelda's Lullaby, a song that only someone from the royal family knows, and is used quite a few times to get past obstacles. Speaking of songs, if you return to see Saria, she teaches you her song, which 1 is a banger, and 2 allows you to talk to her from anywhere. Although, she's not as useful as, let's say, fortune tellers or anything like that. It's not like she gives you hints. Well, she kind of does, but it's not like she gives you hints on a regular basis. Her hints are very vague and stuff. But I mean, it's still pretty useful, and it's a banger, and I like talking to her. Anyway, from here is the next land, the home of the Gorons, Death Mountain. They've been in deep trouble lately, as their supply of food, sirloin rocks, are in a special cavern. But as of late, the place has been blocked off and full of monsters. Their leader, Darunia, promises to give Link the next spiritual stone if he helps, and so it's off to the next dungeon, the Dongo Cavern. This is another easy one. It's simple, there's not a lot of mind-boggling puzzles, just fun room-to-room traversing. The boss can be a little annoying though, you have to feed it bombs, but I throw them at the wrong times constantly. Darunia, happy with his people being saved, gives Link the stone as promised, as well as a big Goron hug, which Link is terrified of, I swear. Link is terrified of physical affection, well, except for, that one time it didn't Majora's Mask, but I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Stonefree is nearby, in a place called Zora's Domain. Ah, that song. Another relaxing one. This game sure does have a lot of relaxing tracks, doesn't it? The Zora Princess Ruto has gone missing, What happened to her? Well, she got eaten by the guardian of the domain, Jabu Jabu, and so does Link. The next dungeon takes place inside of the beast. It's disgusting. So much that despite not really being all that bad from a design perspective, the gross nature puts me off so much to make it my least favorite dungeon in the game, honestly. To make things worse, Ruto is a total bitch, forcing Link to carry her around the place, complaining, getting kidnapped, etc. After the boss is defeated, Jabu Jabu returns to normal, and Ruto gives Link the last spiritual stone, with a catch. You see, it was a gift from her mother, meant to only be given to her fiancé. Man, we're only a few hours in and already Link has 4 girls smitten over him. He doesn't really seem to understand or even care about what taking his gem means for him in the future. I mean, that's years in the future anyway. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Before heading to the Temple of Time, however, there is some other stuff I want to talk about. Mainly the 2 areas I skipped over, Lon Lon Ranch and Kakariko Village. The ranch is home to a few important characters. The owner of the place, Talon, is basically Mario if he let himself go. And Ingo was basically Luigi if he let himself go, and was an evil bastard. And lastly is Talon's daughter, Malon. Her and Link become fast friends. The player first meets her in Castletown, during the sneak in to meet Zelda sequence. Talon, being the lazy bastard he is, falls asleep right in front of the crates leading to the secret entrance. Events like this happen so often apparently that Malon has a backup plan just in case, which tells you a lot about him. Ingo really resents Talon for being so lazy, but I can't exactly blame him. Malon spends her time with the ranch's horses, her favorite being a young one, Epona. Epona takes a liking to Link, and Malon even teaches him a special song that the farm animals love, yet there's not really much else to the ranch, at least for now. Kakariko Village may be the most iconic town in Zelda. Heck, maybe even the most iconic in gaming. Kakariko Village does come back in later forms, and it was Link to the Past before, but you get what I mean, like this iteration of Kakariko Village. The town was built by the Sheikah, a tribe allied with the Hylians that Impa is part of. The town is jam-packed full of content, villagers, and quests. From this guy playing the Song of Storms in a windmill hut, to this old guy disappointed with his workers, and a crazy cuckoo lady whose model was later reused for Anju and Majora's Mask, so I kind of forget she's her own character. The graveyard is the best part of the city. I love spooky levels in games, as if it wasn't obvious enough already with how often I glaze them in my videos, and this one is alright. It's kind of small, with not really much to do. The gravedigger, Dompe, has a tour where you can pay him to dig up stuff, which seems a little weird. Like he digs right next to graves. It's likely that he'd dig up someone's casket one day. Why is this even a thing? Other than that, you can fight Poes, or move graves to uncover secret underground chambers. The aesthetic is perfect though. It really takes me back to being a kid with how cliche it all is. And I don't know, I just really like it. For being the first 3D Zelda, they sure did nail down the gameplay. So many other franchises that made the jump to 3D had issues, even if they're good. Yet Ocarina of Time is aged gracefully in that regard. The controls are simple. First, there's the A button, which can do a number of things. Talking to people, interacting with stuff, rolling around, or putting items away. B is your sword, and while you can't do as many neat tricks as you could say in, let's say, Twilight Princess, they do come in handy. The spin attack returns from the previous Zeldas, although it's not quite as handy here. And then there's a jump attack, a devastating move, a little tricky to pull off, but it does a lot more damage. Unlike before, where your shield was just kind of there, here it's utilized almost as much as your sword. Pressing R makes Link put a shield up, with the price of not being able to attack as long as it's still up. The greatest feature added by far though is Z targeting, or L targeting in the 3DS version. By pressing Z or L respectively, Link locks on to the nearest target, and if an attack is used, it'll be launched in that target's direction. Without it, fights would be so much harder, longer, and more annoying, and hitting enemies with projectiles would be a pain in the ass. It centers the camera as well, which is another very needed feature for a 3D game. A number of items can be equipped instead of just one. In the original, 3 items can be equipped to the C buttons, and in the remake, 4 items can be equipped, although 2 of them have to be on touchscreen icons. I'll save that for another part of the video though. Navi can be very helpful, giving tips while fighting enemies, hints of what to do next, plus just being there, so you don't feel alone. Most of the time, she is just really annoying, interrupting whatever you're doing to try to get Link back on track. And that voice, well, it's even more annoying. At least Tattle from Majora's Mask didn't have that high-pitched "hey listen" audio clip. That being said, the internet has been a little too harsh on the poor fairy. Yeah, it's mostly a meme, I get that, but the way she's talked about, you think Navi interrupts the game every 2 minutes instead of maybe once every half hour. A hard to describe aspect in gaming is the cozy feel they may have. A lot of times it's from nostalgia, I think, or maybe it's how these older games are smaller, which allows for more detail. I often find myself delighted simply by hanging out in houses or tight areas. I feel a similar cozy vibe in titles like Luigi's Mansion or its sequel Majora's Mask. A vibe that makes me forget about my stress, like being in a shower, under warm water in the winter time. This feeling I have is hard to convey in words. All I can say is Ocarina of Time without a doubt has it. Upon heading back to Castletown, an odd series of events occur. Zelda and Impa flee on horseback, with the former throwing the Ocarina of Time into the moat. Ganondorf arrives a few seconds later, barely missing them. Link attempts to stop him, yet is no match. He doesn't notice the Ocarina though, so he enters the Temple of Time at long last, to fulfill his destiny. With the stones and the Song of Time at hand, he enters the sacred chamber. Inside, they see something. The Master Sword, the blade of evil's bane, the sword that seals the darkness, the weapon that many incarnations of the hero have used to save their world. Link pulls the sword from its stone, in what may be the most awesome animation in gaming. But what's happening? Ganondorf shows up, thanking Link? By pulling the Master Sword, the player allowed Ganondorf to enter the Sacred Realm. Link's body didn't have the power to handle the blade, so his body has undergone hibernation for 7 years. 7 years have passed since that day, and now he's grown up. During this time, Ganondorf has taken over the world, but not all hope is lost. This guy, Rauru, is a sage. If 5 other sages can be found to fill in, Ganondorf can be defeated at last. Another new character is introduced around this time as well, Sheik. They claim to be the last of the Sheikah, and show up periodically throughout the rest of the story to give the player advice or to teach them new melodies. I know everyone knows the plot twist, but for the 2 people who don't, I'll keep my mouth shut. When you leave the Temple of Time, you see firsthand just how bad things are. Castletown is in ruins, full of re-deads. Don't fret though, these re-deads aren't the townsfolk. All of them have escaped the chaos, and have relocated to Kakariko. It still sucks, having to walk past them when passing by the area, and I remember as a kid, I would always turn my volume down when walking by, so my mom wouldn't think I was playing a horror game or something. Now let's see what else has changed. For one, a lot of people have gotten older than just Link. The Gravekeeper is now dead, which is about as old as you can get, so it's ironically haunting the graveyard. He doesn't seem to be too upset with it though, and even challenges Link to races. Back at Lon Lon Ranch, Ingo is now in charge of the ranch, having it given to him by Ganondorf. Talon spends his day sleeping in Kakariko, and Malon is depressed. Epona has fully grown, being able to be ridden now. Ingo promises to let the player keep it if you can beat him in a race, and surprisingly, he's true to his word, he just doesn't let you leave. Epona can jump over the gate thankfully, and also this whole thing reminds me of that one creepypasta that Yuri of Wind made a video on. The Legend of Zelda, I'll never let you leave. I miss his videos, I hope he comes back to YouTube. Well, I don't think he ever officially left, but I miss his videos. And off the off chance that he's watching right now, I like your videos, your inspiration to me, all that, let's move on. Weirdly enough, things go back to normal after this. Ingo becomes nice again, nicer than he was 7 years ago, and Malon thanks Link. Yeah, she's the best waifu by far. And it's a popular fan theory that Link actually married her out of all the girls in this game and Majora's Mask. Riding Epona is the fastest way to travel the overworld, cutting the time spent to a fraction. She can jump over fences, plus, you can shoot arrows too. My only complaint is how Epona can only really be used in the overworld and maybe a few other places here and there, and not any of the routes leading up to Goron City or Zora's Domain or anything. The next good chunk of the main campaign involves getting those sages, mostly by completing temples, all by completing temples. I don't know why I wrote it like that. Anyway, there are 5 in total: the Forest, Fire, Water, Shadow, and Spirit temples. Each follow the same formula. You travel around and explore a previous area, either as an adult or child, with a new item, to get another new item or weapon, which is basically the key to the temple of the area. She comes along to teach a song to warp you there. Then you play the dungeon, beat the boss, awaken the sage, rinse and repeat. You can do them out of order for the most part, yet there is a canon pattern that most follow, including myself. The Forest Temple is first, located in Kokiri Forest. When the player comes back to the woods, the Kokiri haven't grown up at all, and none of them recognize Link now. I remember the Forest Temple being really tough as a kid. Meanwhile, this playthrough, I cleared it with almost no difficulty. I don't know if I'm just getting less bad as I get older, or if it's because I've played through Ocarina of Time so many times now. I've heard some say it creeped them out as kids, as for me though, it never really unnerved me personally. Saria is awakened as a sage of the forest, looking pretty depressed when she realizes what her new job entails. Poor girl. Also, Link isn't a Kokiri, he's a human. His parents died from the Hylian Civil War, his mother surviving long enough to ask the Great Deku Tree to take care of her son. There are a lot of questions I have, like, why aren't the people of Hyrule more resentful towards each other, or how did a tree care for a human baby, and none of these questions will ever be answered. In Goron City, the Gorons are gone, making this just regular plain old city, being taken to the Fire Temple. As the name suggests, it's full of lava, fire, as well as other hot stuff. You find Gorons in jail cells throughout. Funnily, freeing them isn't the goal. You just need to open their cells to get things like keys, and in the process you free them. Similar to before, I had a much easier time than I normally do with this place too. I'm starting to think I really just sucked as a kid now. The newly awakened sage is Daruna, because who else could it be? I mean, literally every other Goron looks exactly the same, and basically have no distinct personalities. The Zoras have it way worse, having their whole domain frozen. To restore it, the Water Temple has to be cleared. Ah yes, the infamous Water Temple, many fans' least favorite in the game. Quite a bit of the stage is underwater, and to walk underwater, you have to wear the iron boots, which slow the player down. The water level has to be changed to be able to enter certain rooms or reach certain areas. The problem is how tedious it is to do so. There are 3 places to raise the water level, but you have to do them in order. So, let's say the water is at ground level. So basically you have to go in here to raise the water level, and again to raise it to its maximum, which is annoying. Or if you want to drain the water, same deal there, you have to drain it at ground level, you can't just go in other rooms, it's really annoying. The overall layout is confusing too, I get lost all the time. I also always seem to choose the wrong fork in the road every playthrough, reaching a locked door, then having to go to the other area to get the key, then coming back. I get a little further, and then I realize there's another key I missed. However, while I never quite look forward to the Water Temple, it's not nearly as bad though as some other dungeons in the series. I love Majora's Mask, but its temples are much more of a headache. The 3DS version thankfully is way easier, with these helpful markings indicating where water rising rooms are, and the iron boots are equipped with buttons instead of the pause menu. The sage here is none other than Princess Ruto, having grown up like Link. She hasn't forgotten the whole engagement thing either, but seeing that Link's descendants aren't half fish people, I take it that it doesn't work out. Fourth up is the dungeon I have the most to talk about, the Shadow Temple. Following the Water Temple, Kakariko village is in flames. Sheik is there too, when all of a sudden, some invisible force leaves the well, attacks the group, then enters the graveyard. Before the Shadow Temple can be cleared as an adult, its twin mini-dungeon needs to be explored as a child. Beneath the well, home to the Lens of Truth, a necessary item to be able to see things invisible to the naked eye. Technically you don't need it. It's possible to beat the game without it, but unless you've memorized literally everything, you're not gonna have a good time, so just get it. Both are creepy, having unsettling music, yet the Shadow Temple is a bit scarier. It's terrifying, full of sickles, guillotines, bones, and other disturbing imagery. It's the only temple without a clear purpose. However, it's a popular fan theory that it was used not as a place of worship like the rest of the temples, but as a place of torture for enemies of Hyrule. Some random dialogue boxes that pop up throughout pretty much prove it. This place scared me so much as a kid. I vividly remember my first time. I began playing it late at night because I couldn't sleep, which ironically made it even harder for me to sleep. I went the whole night without sleeping, only playing in a temple, and to top it all off, it was the day before my birthday. It's a strange memory to be sure, but one that I'll always cherish. Strangely, the Shadow Temple is way easier than I remember. In fact, I had an easier time here than any other dungeon. It only took me like 30 minutes to complete, including the boss. Speaking of which, is the freakiest aspect of this frickin' torture chamber. Bongo Bongo. The theory goes that he was a criminal, executed by Hyrule, probably beheaded, then revived by Ganondorf. The sage here is Impa, glad to see that she's safe. Plus, she mentions that Zelda is safe too, almost ready to meet Link in person again. The final temple is in Ganondorf's homeland, Gerudo Valley, entirely made up of women. The dream of all the virgins and neckbeards who are probably watching this video right now. There's another stealth segment, albeit not that long or difficult compared to other Zeldas. After a trek through Haunted Wasteland, the Spirit Temple is found. The Spirit Temple is overall my favorite, mostly because of one factor. You get to switch between times halfway through, and utilize each Link's special abilities to get through. The Gerudo's leader can be found at the beginning, Narubu. She refuses to obey Ganondorf, despite him being the only male born in the last 100 years. However that works, she makes a deal with Link, that if he gets a treasure inside, she will do something great for him. What could this great thing be? That's left up to interpretation. Since she's kidnapped at the end of the child segment, Link also obtains the treasure, Silver Gauntlets. Travel in time 7 years, and he can now use the gauntlets to enter a new part of the temple to reach the boss, who are Ganondorf's surrogate mothers. It's a cool boss fight. You use the mirror shield to reflect their firepower. Then they merge into one, more powerful and frankly sexier form. Well, objectively, that is correct. To defeat it, absorb their attacks, then launch it back at them. The big Goron sword makes the whole fight a piece of cake. After that, they die, and somehow go to heaven and not hell. I guess, I don't know how that works. Nabooru becomes the final sage, saying how she wishes she kept her promise if she knew how handsome Link would become. You know, maybe we could have found someone else to become the last sage. In any case, with every sage awakened, it's time to take on the final boss. Yet, there's still a lot more I have to say about this game, so before the grand finale, let me get it all out. Switching between a child or adult timeline is a piece of cake. Simply return to the Temple of Time to either reinsert or pull the Master Sword again. Both forms of Link have their own special skills, but adult Link has way more stuff. Young Link can crawl into tight spaces, has a slingshot, a boomerang, and Deku sticks as his exclusive items, while adult Link has the hook shot, a bow, various special tunics, a hammer, iron boots, hover boots, and a mirror shield. Both of them can use bombs, the lens of truth, and Deku nuts, which I don't think I ever actually used in my playthrough. There are various types of arrows too. You have regular, fire, ice, and light arrows, so all that's pretty cool. The Ocarina is another brilliant addition. When used, certain buttons play specific notes, and using certain notes in the right order can play a song. The melodies are very short, making them super easy to remember. But even then, it's not like you have to memorize them for good. In all versions of the game, you can see the notes needed in the menu, or in a remake, the player can pull it up on a touchscreen while they play, undoing the need to memorize pretty much any of the songs at all. I've already described most of what the songs do, but this is my channel and I do what I want, so let's go over all of them again. Saria's song lets you communicate with Saria, and it's also needed to convince Daruna to let Link help him. Zelda's Lullaby works as a key or secret code to unlock routes or trigger events. The Song of Time moves or gets rid of these big blocks. Yeah, not nearly as cool as it is in Majora's Mask. And I knew that the Song of Time was in Ocarina of Time before I played it for certain YouTube videos, and I actually thought for a while that it was the way Link changed back and forth between child and adult. That would be pretty cool if it did that, although it would completely break the game probably. In a Spirit Temple, well, it wouldn't really be possible. The Sun Song changes day to night, or vice versa. Epona's song moves Epona from where she was last to your current location, and then we have the last of the main six, the Song of Storms. It doesn't have all that much purpose compared to the others from a gameplay perspective. From an atmospheric perspective though, I love it. Not only is the melody itself beautiful, the song causes a downpour on the current area. I've said this a lot in my videos, rain is one of my favorite aspects in gaming. It's so soothing, it just relaxes me. So a feature that allows me to make it rain whenever I want is amazing. From a practical perspective though, you only need to use it once, to drain the well in Kakariko village, to enter beneath the well, so it's not really used all that much. At the start of each temple, Sheik teaches the player songs to allow them to warp there at any time. Not that you'd actually want to warp to each dungeon after clearing them, rather I use them to get to the area next to them. I have a few complaints with this system though. Firstly, the songs themselves are a little long and hard to memorize, which isn't really all that big of a deal to be honest. But second, some of these warp points can be pretty far away from the cities surrounding them. And third, it would be so much more convenient to have a single song to warp anywhere, like the Song of Soaring. Scarecrow's song can be learned as well. I just completely forgot about it, and I highly doubt anyone cares anyway. And again, it's my channel, so I do what I want. A feature that I'm a little mixed on is saving and quitting. You can save anytime you wish, only when you boot the game back up, Link either respawns at his house if he's a child, or at the Temple of Time if he's an adult. Or, if you were in a dungeon, he'll respawn at the start of it. This is kind of annoying, although I kind of like it. For one, spawning in Kokiri Forest tones down the stressful feel of other spawn locations. 2, it doesn't take all that long to leave and venture into the overworld. And thirdly, there are all kinds of warps scattered around Lost Woods, not to mention the Ocarina songs. Meanwhile, I haven't even begun to scratch the surface of all the side quests Ocarina of Time has to offer. Like every Zelda, her pieces are the main collectible. 36 exist in total, the vast majority of which are incredibly easy to get, except for a few. The hardest heart pieces to get have to be the fishing hole ones, specifically the second one, where you have to catch a 13-pound or heavier fish. Yeah, this sucks. The fish get scared easily, it's hard to find a big fish, and with how tense fishing can be, I would not be surprised at all if you damage the console's trigger buttons and circle pad. Speaking of which, kind of off topic, but the capture modded 3DS I was using had its L button become loose or something, making it harder for me to press it. It really sucks too, because not only did it make it harder for me to play the game, I also haven't really even used this 3DS that much. I got it not too long ago. Fixing it is gonna be a nightmare too. It was not a good day when I wrote this part of the script. I'll say that. I needed to vent. Sorry about all this. Let's move on. Following heart pieces are empty bottles. One is mandatory, and you get it when you rescue Princess Ruto. One is earned from winning this minigame at the ranch, another one from the hot but crazy cuckoo lady, and the last one isn't really worth getting. There's this ghost collector in the ruins of Castle Town. If you track down 10 big posts throughout Hyrule Field, you get another empty bottle. The side quest is a little too tedious, plus you really don't need a 4th empty bottle to store stuff in, so I'd recommend skipping it unless you're going for 100% like I was. Well, almost 100%. The Big Goron Sword quest is the most worthwhile quest by far. It's one of those fetch quests where you go back and forth between areas to exchange and deliver items between characters. Some of the trips have a time limit, although it's not really that hard to make the deadlines. The most intriguing part of the quest is in Kokiri Forest. This one guy wants the player to give a mushroom to an old hag in Kakariko. However, when they return, he's gone. In his place is a Kokiri never seen before, saying he became a Stalfos, those skeleton knight enemies. In fact, this is what happens to all humans who get lost in the woods. Not exactly the words someone who sees this place as their first home really wants to hear. For completing the quest, you get the Big Goron Sword. It does a lot more damage than the Master Sword, which is a little weird considering its legendary divine status. Anyway, it helps out a lot, cutting down the length of many boss fights. The only downside is when equipped, Link can't hold his shield forward. Great fairies can be found throughout Hyrule. Some upgrade Link's stats, like giving him double defense, while others give him cool items. The coolest of which creates a warp point in temples, so you can go back to them instead of trekking through a dungeon to get there. Gold Skulltulas are the most tedious collectible. In this house in Kakariko are a family that got cursed long ago. All over the world, Gold Skulltulas roam. If defeated, they drop gold tokens. Collect enough of them, and you'll win special prizes. There are just too many Gold Skulltulas, 100 in total, plus some are in dungeons, which are never fun to have to backtrack into. I've honestly never tried to get all 100 of them, but you really only need 50 to get all the worthwhile prizes. For 10, you get a rupee wallet upgrade. For 20, a shard to locate secret holes. For 30, another wallet upgrade. For 40, bomb shoes. for 50 a piece of heart, and for 100 unlimited rupees. Although once again, I only got 50 for this video, or in any playthrough really. I really don't think it's worth getting all 100 of them, since that's a lot. It's quite a bit of a upgrade, and also, I mean, rupees are not exactly scarce in this game anyway. You don't really need them that much. Anyway, last of all, we have the Happy Mask Shop, a side quest many forget about, yet at the same time became the game's sequel's building blocks. The Happy Mask salesman himself even shows up. Is this the same guy as in Majora's Mask? It's up for debate. You can't straight up buy the items here, instead, they're rented out. Then a buyer needs to be found for them. After that, new masks are unlocked, and old ones can be rented out again. At the end of the quest, you get the Mask of Truth, used to talk to Gossip Stones, which is cool, I guess. The 3DS remake isn't as controversial as Majora's Masks. For the most part, fans consider it better than the original. The graphics are overall better, yet, I don't know. In a way, I think the N64 game had more life to it, if that makes sense. The characters seem more expressive, and less glossy. The touchscreen is used perfectly in my opinion. Icons on the bottom screen act as buttons. For 2 extra item slots, the map, gear, and item menus, the view button, and the Ocarina button. In the OG release, the Ocarina was a C item. At first, I really didn't like having to use the touchscreen for all of this, in fear of scratching it. Over time though, I've grown to like it. The icons aren't any less convenient than it is to just touch a button, being so close to the edges of the screen, so it's not like you need to pull out a stylus to touch them all the time. My only gripe is the menus should be popped up with Start or Select, not the touchscreen. Other than that, it's nice to have more free item slots. Bosses can be refought if Link sleeps in his house, a feature that I actually didn't know about until making this video. But that's cool, I guess. Many quality of life improvements have been made too. The iron boots and hover boots are now items instead of equips. The hookshot has a new icon to indicate if something can be hooked onto. The game runs at a higher FPS rate, and areas overall have more detail. On the downside, quite a few elements have been censored, unfortunately. The Fire Temple chant, blood, the Gerudo symbol, all that. While not enough to ruin the experience to the same level as, let's say, the Ocean dub of DBZ, I am still firmly against censorship. One of the few controversial inclusions are glowing Sheikah stones. They contain visions, or in other words, tutorials of what to do next, in dungeons, in the overworld, secrets, etc. As a kid without constant internet access, these hints were super helpful. To many hardcore Zelda fans, meanwhile, it's blasphemy. I don't really care either way. At least your hand isn't held if you don't want it to be like, let's say, Skyward Sword. The final major change is another inclusion, this time of Master Quest mode. Here, enemies are tougher, dungeons longer, the world map has been reversed, and overall, it's a lot tougher. Originally, Master Quest was meant to be an N64 DD add-on to the N64 cart. However, with the add-on's failure, it was scrapped. Then in the early 2000s, it made its way onto the GameCube as its own separate disc. The 3DS remake includes Master Quest as a bonus for completing the main story, however, it doesn't really interest me all that much, so I've never played it before, or really plan to do so in the future. Maybe I will someday, maybe I should have done it for this playthrough, we'll have to see. Alright, this video has been going on long enough, and I promised everyone that I'd stop making hour-long videos, so let's wrap this up. When Link returns to the Temple of Time, Sheik reveals himself to be Zelda. It's not a bad plot twist. There are major hints to be sure, but it's not obvious who Sheik really is. Unfortunately, the Smash games kind of give the surprise away. Zelda is the 7th and final sage. She gives Link light arrows, the key to victory. Then Ganondorf takes Zelda to his castle. Maybe the two should have met in a different place other than a building located less than 30 seconds away from his lair. I'm just saying. When Ganondorf obtained the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, it broke into 3 parts. This happened because to control the Triforce, you need to have a balance of 3 different emotions, or attributes. I don't know why I said emotions in my script. Anyway, power, courage, and wisdom. Ganondorf held on to the Triforce of Power, while Zelda has obtained a Triforce of Wisdom and Link of Courage. As far as final dungeons go, the castle isn't all that bad. It features a series of short puzzle rooms, similar to the temples, yet only lasting a few minutes each. The only segment that really pissed me off was the Shadow Temple one, where I lost my tunic from a like, then fell off the stage, meaning I had to go all the way to Goron City just to get another one. Yeah, that really pissed me off. After a bone-chilling climb up the most villainous staircase in history, it's finally time to face Ganondorf. He has Zelda contained in a giant rupee, planning to use the Triforce him, Zelda, and Link hold to take total control of Hyrule. This fight is great. The organ playing, the dapper design of Ganondorf, and the awesome cutscene aside, beating him consists of playing tennis basically. Even better, an empty bottle can be used instead of your sword. Yet again, the big Goron sword makes this whole fight a piece of cake. I even found myself a little bewildered by how little time it took. I mean, the big Goron sword is OP, it's awesome, get it. I love it. I love you, big Goron guy, for making it. Ganondorf dying uses the last of his power to cause the castle to collapse onto 2. Taking a page from Super Metroid, Link and Zelda have to escape his castle under a time limit. The exits all have bars preventing escape. Only Zelda can open them, but oh boy does she take her sweet time. Enemies show up too, and need to be taken down to progress. While I've never died during this sequence, I have come close a lot of the time. The time you have is a little scarce. Not as bad as Metroid, let's say, yet not as generous as the endgame scene in Superstar Saga, for instance. With that, the castle collapses, burying Ganondorf for good. The Triforce of Power brings him back to life though, as a great beast, resembling his past forms in previous games. Even worse, he knocks the Master Sword out of Link's hand. In the first phase of the fight, you have to use light arrows to attack him. In phase 2, Link retrieves the Master Sword. The trick is to roll under his crotch and strike at his tail. When he finally takes enough damage, Zelda uses her magic to hold him in place, and Link delivers the final blow, sealing Ganondorf in the chamber for all time. Or at least until the Sage's magic weakens, but come on, that's never gonna happen. Link and Zelda reconcile. Zelda apologizes for what she's put Link and everyone else through. She doesn't just apologize though. She uses her power to send Link's soul back to his child self for good, sealing the link between it 2 times. The citizens all celebrate the victory over evil. Navi mysteriously flies off, maybe because she's no longer needed or for some other reason. In any case, Link visits Zelda once again, warning her of future events, and the game ends. And that was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I can't deny it, it's an amazing game, and I had a lot of fun. But by today's standards, is it actually the best game ever? I don't know about that. It's hard to say. If this game never existed and came out in the modern day, I don't feel like it would be. The time period it came out in has a lot to do with its legacy. But it, without a doubt, deserved a spot at least in the top 10 greatest games of all time, that's for sure. The start of my playthrough may be the most fun I've had in a game in years. Maybe even more fun than I had in the other games earlier this year. But for some strange reason, around halfway through, I just stopped having fun and became tired all of a sudden. I don't know why this happened, although if I had to guess, it's probably because all the hours I wasted playing the damn fishing minigame. Yeah, fuck you, fishing minigame. Well, at least we have a new Zelda to look forward to now, Echoes of Wisdom, which I'm thinking about making a video on soon. I've never made a video on a new game before, so this will be interesting, well, if I do it, and if I can get my hands on a copy, because as of writing the script, the game still has a few days to come out. And as of recording this, the game still has like 1 day to come out, or 2 days, or isn't it the 26th? So yeah, 3 days until it comes out as of recording this. But I probably will not be able to finish the editing on this video until it's already come out, so this whole thing I'm talking about right now is gonna be outdated unless I work like a dog. And if I have worked like a dog to put this out by then, please praise me in the comments. But anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and watch my other videos if you haven't. I've made game retrospectives on Wind Waker and Majora's Mask before, so if you want to see those, check them out. And with that, bye!